This is welcome to episode 101. This is going to be our 101st episode of the new season. I think this is going to be season 5, man. We've done 100 episodes, 5 seasons. Welcome to the Figuring Shit Out Podcast. I am King Arthur. Today we got a new co-host, Miss Gab down there. How you doing, Gab?
I'm doing well. Weather's getting a little bit better outside. It's cold here in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Um, and today we got Jeremy LaDuke, right? Jeremy
That's
LaDuke.
right. Yep. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, of the premier creative agency and the Climb Club, and so everybody listening, make sure you go follow our Instagram and TikTok, figuring shit out. Make sure you subscribe to the email. We got some good stuff coming out. We got a meet and greet coming out. I'm putting a date on. I'm gonna say around April, May time ish. So we're still planning the thing out, but that's gonna go out. And then don't forget to unify and thrive. So, Mr. Jeremy, to get this thing started, our first question is, what is your figuring shit out moment? With business or
Oh
life or anything
man,
that made you
I
say,
have.
ah.
Yeah, I have to pick one.
We can talk about a few
I
of
would
them.
say, yeah, yeah. I would say, in terms of business,
Okay.
it was this moment. I freelanced for a while, so I freelanced for a couple of years. I left a previous career, freelanced for a couple of years, and then started Epic Nine, which is our main agency. Um,
Okay.
and when I was freelancing, I remember having this conversation with someone at an entrepreneur. It was like an entrepreneur networking event, and the guy asked me, he goes, what sort of business do you have? And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I was like a year into it. I was like super proud. I was like, I'm a freelance web designer, graphic designer. And he just looks at me. He's like, you don't have a business. He goes, you're self-employed. Now, I will argue that self-employment is a business, right?
Right.
It's definitely a business. You are an entrepreneur through and through, even if you don't have other employees. But
Mm.
it was this distinction that I had never really thought about
Right.
of there is a difference between being on your own, being a solopreneur, and creating a place that is employing others. And so that for whatever reason that stuck in my brain. And
Mm.
so as I went through kind of this whole business journey from being a freelancer to working at an agency to starting my own, that always stuck in my brain. And I remember thinking like, I want to create a business where I'm helping other people um, find a living doing the things that they love to do and making an impact in our community.
Okay. So, did that conversation help you take your solopreneurness to figure out how you could, navigate that space, or
It took it a while for it to simmer, right? So that was like, I would say about 2.5 years after that is when I've actually jumped out and started Epic Nine.
mm,
But it always just kind of was in the background simmering, like, all right, freelancing was kind of hard. And I didn't really know. I mean, I grew up, to give you an idea of kind of my previous career. I grew up in the nonprofit church world, right? That's what I
okay.
did for about 13 years. And so I was very ignorant to how business worked. And so for me, I just jumped out and it was like, I've got this skill. I can do web design. I can do graphic design. It's something I had done since high school.
Right.
And I had no idea, like, how do you actually start a business and do that?
Mm,
And I thought I was kind of on that road to some extent as a solopreneur, um, but I didn't know what the potential was. I didn't know what the potential was to actually start something bigger than just me. And so
okay.
it took it a while for that to simmer. And I worked at another agency for about a year and a half. And that's when I really started to kind of put all these pieces together of like, oh, this can be a much bigger thing than just me alone.
Right.
And the rest is history. I jumped out as soon as Obamacare came around. That was I needed insurance. That's one of the reason I signed up for an agency, and so as soon as it was January 2014, when that went into effect, I was like, I'm out of here because it was kind of a toxic environment. They were lying to their clients. They were lying to their
Mm,
us, their team, and that was my and I believe that the Affordable Care Act really did give it gave a lot of people the opportunity to do things that they
mm,
wouldn't have been able to do because they were tied to an employer. And so
for sure.
it opened up some entrepreneurial doors that had never been opened up before, especially for folks with, chronic diseases and whatnot.
Right. Right. Now that's nice. Like that you kind of got this little teeny gnat in your ear saying they're not a real business. And you were like, excuse me, sir. Yes, I am. Right. I do this. I make my
Yeah,
own money.
yeah.
I make my own schedule. I help people. Right. I provide a service or whatnot. And then it was like, well, maybe he's right. Right. And then you end up going to another agency and you seem like, oh, this is kind of what he was talking about. Right. So,
Yeah.
what did you learn from the agency that helped you kind of navigate to how you wanted to move in your business and not just the solopreneur?
I think it was seeing just how all the parts could work together,
Mm-hmm.
and how so up to that point, I was really good at providing a creative solution. Like you need a
Mm-hmm.
website, you need a logo, you need something designed. I could do that, um, and I hadn't really thought of how all the other pieces. How does an advertising budget fit in? How does your target audience fit in? How do all these strategic elements fit into a bigger goal? I was just, hey, here's this really pretty thing. Give me a check. I'm going to give you the thing, right? And so that's kind of that's how I had made the living up to that point. And so seeing how, businesses would come in and we would help them with not just a website, but also ads and messaging and different things. And so seeing how it all fit together, that's something that just kind of really it kind of it excited me then and excites me now. Like I love the creative strategy of being able to look at a client's goals. That they'll come in and say, this is where I want to get to, X percentage more sales, or X amount of revenue more than last year. And then we develop this plan that involves some technical aspects, but it involves a lot of creative strategy to help get them to that goal.
So are you saying you have like no business plan for yourself, but you are willing to help others come up with the business plan for themselves?
Yeah, at the beginning, that's kind of like I was clueless at the beginning. Like I was just like, hey, here's this website, here's this logo, and it didn't really have a whole lot of strategy or goal focus in mind. But now we start with the goals and go from there. And yes, we do have a business plan. We have goals ourselves and doing that now. But yeah, it's been an evolution for sure.
Yeah. Good. So kind of like talk about like helping people that you work with, right? Not just come up with a logo or color patterns or just a website, right? Talk about how you help them create their story, right? And how to hit their goals and how to go about getting to their particular target point.
Yeah. So we often start with, or I would say one of the biggest opportunities we start with is branding and messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things we see a lot of the times when businesses first come to us is they've played it safe, right? They've played it safe with their name. They've played it safe with their messaging. They've played it safe with just everything about their brand because we just kind of gravitate towards the things we're familiar with and things that feel safe to us. Um, and so when businesses come in, we'll kind of take that apart and say, all right, are there any opportunities to help you stand out? And really that's the goal of our job as marketers is to make people distinct, and help them earn a spot in people's brains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's our memory is the most valuable piece of real estate that exists right now. We're bombarded with thousands and thousands and thousands of advertisements every day.
Right.
And so if you can like jump that big gap and earn a spot in someone's memory so that the next day or the day after, when they're needing what you have, they think, oh, hey, I remember this ad, or I remember this logo, or I remember something about this business over here. Man, that's a win. Um, the good news is that bar is set pretty low, like especially for brands that aren't like national brands, right? For if you're a
Hmm.
local or a regional brand, most of your competition is probably pretty boring, and
Hmm.
so you don't have to be crazy to earn that spot in people's memory. So one of the things we love to do is kind of figure out where are those opportunities that we can take advantage of and earn that spot in their customer's memory, because that is how you make all your other marketing more efficient, right? So we start with like the brand awareness type of marketing that we're trying to get people out there and get a logo or get a message out in front of people that they remember, so that
Hmm.
when by the time they get down lower in the funnel and they need that service, you're top of mind. They're thinking of you because you've had something that probably made an emotional connection with them, whether it was humorous or nostalgic or sad or something. You have to pull on those heartstrings to
Hmm.
earn that spot in their memory. Like people don't remember bullet points. They remember laughing, right?
Right.
Um, and so you got to tie into their emotional uh, side before we can get into that really reasonable side. You've probably heard that saying that you have to see a logo, or you have to hear a name 10 times before you remember it.
Hmm.
And that's most of the time that's true, because most advertising again is kind of boring and forgettable.
Right.
But how many times think of your favorite Super Bowl commercial? What's your
Okay.
favorite Super Bowl commercial? Or what's the
Well,
what's the one that
most
comes to
memorable
mind?
one is like I don't the Dorito guy when he was eating Doritos and
That's when I
his whole
started.
house turned into like cheese or whatever, like cheese flavored color everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. How many times did it take you to see that ad before you remembered that ad?
like once or twice. Like yeah, not
Yeah,
many.
because it was done really well,
Right.
and I think a lot of businesses they shy away from standing out.
Mm.
That's the thing, that ads that are distinct and that you remember, they stand out, and a lot of businesses don't really want to call a lot of attention to themselves with something that is different, and so they miss a lot of opportunity there. But the ones that do, the ones that kind of go out on that limb and take that risk, they win. And it's counterintuitive, right? Like
Hmm.
they're playing it safe is actually riskier than being risky. And so
Yeah.
what we try to encourage our clients to do is find some opportunities where you can be distinct, and really set yourself apart, and then all of your other marketing becomes a lot easier. And you don't have to have a huge budget, right? You don't have to have like a Doritos level production
Hmm.
commercial to do this. We've got one company in town that I love using as an example. Like if you can think of like most heating and air companies, they're most of the time that I can almost guarantee you that like probably 75% of the heating and air companies in your town have a snowflake or a flame or maybe
Hmm.
both in
A
in
thermostat.
their logo, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something that's their logo. We had this company in town, and I wish I could claim this was my idea. It's not my idea, but we had this company in town that started using a Yeti, like an abominable snowman.
Oh. Okay.
And I guarantee you, like you see that Yeti, and you know exactly which company that is.
Nice.
And so doing things that are just a little bit distinct go a long way.
Okay.
How do you,
Yeah,
how do you go about in getting your clients? Like, since you say you're into marketing, but where your clients come from? Is it word of mouth, or give us a little bit on how you get your clients?
Yeah, so we two ways primarily. Um, One is we've been around for almost 11 years now. And so one of the very first things I did And I saw the value in this when I was freelancing. And so the very first thing I did when I started Epic Nine was joined our local chamber of commerce. And I'm a huge proponent of chambers. I think they do a lot of good for local businesses. So I would say if you have any sort of local business where you need to be in the community, um, join your chamber of commerce. Some are better than others. We have a great one. We have one that I think has been voted like best in Tennessee or something. So my
Wow.
my experience may be a little bit skewed, but our chamber is fantastic. They give us opportunities to like get out and network with people. And so every month I know that we're going to have two opportunities. I'm going to have two opportunities to go and shake hands and collect the business cards from folks. And so that was where my business started. Is I was just getting business cards from people and then following up, right? So it was is a combination of marketing and sales. So those two things really need to work together. But I wasn't, in all honesty, I wasn't doing a whole lot of advertising at the beginning because advertising costs money and I didn't have any, right? But I had time and I could get out there and I could hustle and I could shake hands and get business cards and just and talk to folks. And so that's how I did it. And then and we keep doing that to this day. So we've been a part of several different chambers and different opportunities to network with folks.
Hmm.
And so for us as a B2B business, we try to find as many opportunities as we can to get in front of those folks. Another way that we've done it is to give away some of what we do for free. So um, very early on, we started teaching workshops at our chambers. So we've taught, I would say in the 11 years, we've taught well over 100 workshops from and everything from how do you do your social media to how do you do Google ads, what sort of things do you need to know when you're trying to get into e-commerce, all of these things that kind of touch on marketing. We get up there and kind of give that information away, because the reality is they can find it online, right? They If someone goes and really wants to find the answers to what we do, it's not like you have to go get a degree for it. It's all
Right.
you just need to know where to look. So what we're doing is just kind of giving it away for free, saying, "Hey, we've already done all the work for you. We're the experts at it. So if you want someone to
Mhm.
help you with this, come talk to us." And so now we've grown a little bit outside of our local community, and so we do those things uh, just more online. So it just very recently we started doing workshops and virtual events to kind of like webinars, you could call them. I hate calling them webinars, but we've been doing these virtual events where we teach people everything from how to make a marketing plan to how do you run your email marketing, etc.
Okay. That's nice. That's what is it? Confirmation. That's confirmation for me because Frank and I have been kind of going back and forth as to how we're going to be different from other podcasts and how we're going to stand out, right? Like we're able to get guests, right, and we're able to get hosts, we're able to hold a decent conversation. We can create some pretty decent media, right? But what is going to make us stand out, or how we're going to find new people, right? And I'm a big person proponent of going outside, right? I have a one of my businesses I sell LED masks, right? And I'm not the best at selling online, but if I can go outside and get in front of the people, in front of the customers, I have no problems. I do pretty well majority of the time, right? And that's just I don't
Have
know
you
why, but
have you tried uh, live social shopping yet, or selling? Have you tried
I'm
selling on
going
TikTok or
to.
anything?
So
Yeah.
so I have an event coming up in February, right? And it's this thing called Why Not, I think it's called. So it's kind of like the Amazon Live or shopping or the Alibaba Live shopping experience, right? And so I'm gonna try that at my event when I go. And because somebody just introduced me to that a couple weeks ago and was like, "You ever seen this before?" I was like, "No, but I've seen the concept." Right? They was
It's fascinating to me. Like I personally am not drawn to it,
uh
but
huh.
I mean, I'll watch it and I'm like, I
Right,
don't really want to buy anything from this guy, but man, people are laying money down, buying stuff
right,
from him.
right. And
So I mean,
the whatnot, the why not at what not or
mhm.
why not, one of the two. I'm not sure,
Oh yeah,
but
what not? Uh-huh.
what not? Okay, yeah, they were selling coins, socks, jackets, thrifting items, right? And I'm like, that seems pretty cool. Like I was saying, I'm outside already in front of people, and then I'm sure me doing a transaction with an actual customer, and then showing it online would be beneficial, right? But I'm trying to get Frank to go outside and do more in person events so we can actually touch hands. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we want to do an in person event with some of the guests for a networking event, right, or collaboration event for a couple of reasons. As to the people on our show, they can network with other guests that we've had to build and create and do God knows what, right? Because everybody we talk to has been pretty successful in business and all kinds of levels, so everybody can benefit or learn or work with somebody. But also, a lot of those guys or companies we talk to want to have an online presence via podcasting, but they just don't have like you said, those tools and resources. Yeah, they could probably go online and find it. There's nothing out there, but I mean, there's a lot out there, but it's like we're at 100 episodes. We have three different shows. We do a Wednesday live show, we have a conspiracy show, and then we do this one, right? So we're always putting out content. And we've learned a lot that we can just share that you don't have to go through those mistakes, right? So I definitely uh like I said, it's confirmation to say that yeah, I think
Yeah.
we need to go ahead and move forward with that live and in person event because it's going to help whoever comes, right? And it's going to help us grow our presence and relationship with them.
Yeah, and I'll say this: kudos on making it to 101 episodes.
Yes,
I've we're kind of between seasons. We've got a podcast called Marketing Trailblazers, and it's work. Like it's almost like a second job to like crank this out. And so getting to 101 is a big accomplishment. So
thank you,
congrats.
thank you. We're trying to just stand out. We definitely understand that. I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? Because that's what I actually do. So a lot of these shows are like 700 and like 800 episodes. I'm not trying to compare my 100th episode to the 700th episode, right? But I do understand that we gotta keep going, right? We just gotta keep pushing the envelope and not stopping and being consistent and things like that. Um,
Well, and I think like now podcasting, I think as in terms of audience and listenership has started to plateau a little bit, but
mhm,
the way that you can take all of that content, right? So we're sitting here talking for 45 minutes. The ability for you to take and chop that up and put it on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and all these things. It's we're at a point now that you can get in front of more people probably now than you ever have been able to because the algorithms are changing to people being it's not about how many people follow you, it's about
mhm,
how many people are interested in
Yeah.
what you have to say.
right.
And so this what is the TikTokification of social media? Um, what we're finding is that you can have 1 million followers, but if you're not producing content that that the algorithm sees that they like,
Mhm,
it doesn't matter that they follow you; they may never see your content. And
right.
so, if you can create content that people are genuinely interested in, and you don't have to appeal to the masses every time. You can appeal to a small group. You can appeal to 10,000
To a
people,
niche, right? Niche
and
down.
and those 10,000 people, yeah, and they will get your content and they'll engage with your content,
Mhm,
and so I think we're in an interesting time that has a lot of frustration to it because things are changing so fast, but there's a lot of opportunity as well because the tides have shifted a little bit, and you don't have to be this like dinosaur brand that has been around with 1 million followers to really be successful. You can have 100 episodes, you can have 10 episodes, and just a couple of them can take off, and
right.
you're at the top.
All right. So I gotta take a with break, guys. So Frank has
Yeah,
the paid for Zoom version. I do not. I need to pay for it, or this thing's gonna cost me a few minutes. Give me like 2 seconds.
you're fine. You're fine. So, Gabrielle, what do you do?
I'm actually a mail carrier. I'm a mail
Oh,
lady.
awesome. Well, thank you for your that is a very valuable service.
You're
So
welcome.
I appreciate what y'all do.
Yeah, the day felt really, really good compared to the days we've been outside in the 32-degree weather. Today it warmed up
I
for
bet.
us. So that was really good. Really enjoying the weather? I sure am. I didn't have to wear gloves today. So yeah, it's a good day. It was a good day. And then besides, I assist them on the side. So I write their notes for their podcast. So yeah.
Oh, awesome.
All right.
King, who typically your audience for this show? Who's typically listening?
All right. So we can keep this. We can put this part back in. Frank, go ahead
Oh,
and put this
okay.
back in. That's a great question, though. That's a great question. So we are tip. So since Frank and I are serial entrepreneurs, right? We both do several different things. I have maybe 3 different businesses. He has maybe 4 or 5, right? We're trying to niche them down to kind of consolidate them. But we usually typically talk to starting entrepreneurs or early stage entrepreneurs, right? And hence the name of the show, Figuring Shit Out. And you kind of alluded to trying
Yeah.
to that standing out factor, right? We're trying to stand out, but also hit the mark and kind of let people know what we're conversing about, which is talking to great entrepreneurs like yourself who have figured some shit out and kind of sharing those milestones or obstacles that you overcome so that can possibly help them in their endeavors. So yeah.
So that's great. So if I could give two pieces of advice to anybody that's starting out,
Absolutely.
it would be one, get a good name that is distinct. Like if you're a CPA and you're gonna call yourself Jones's CPA, just don't just stop. Like that's boring, and
It's a
you
thousand
will
Jones
do
CPAs.
okay, but yes, yeah, you will do okay, but you won't do as good as you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming up with a great name at the beginning will really kind of set you on a good track. So naming and your branding like is important. I would say if you have something that you feel just in your gut, you feel like it'll stand out, it'll connect with your customers. Whatever you do, don't ask people what they think about it, because as soon as you ask someone what they think about it, and we see this with like logos all the time, a client will say, they'll take a
Yes.
they'll take a logo and take it to their friends and say, hey, what do you think about this? That person you're asking to think about it, they're going to feel like they have to come up with some sort of good, thoughtful reason for why it's good or bad. And that's not how we operate in the real world, right? And so, when we operate in the real world, we see a logo and we have a gut instinct. We have a gut reaction to it like that looks interesting and I want to learn more about it, or that looks sketchy, or that looks boring. I don't really want to learn any more about it. And so rather than asking what people think about it, I try to get their reaction with as little words as possible. If you have to ask them a question, ask them, how do they feel about it? How does this make you
Mm-hmm.
feel?
Okay.
Because the way we feel about something, the way we think about something are often two completely different things. And from a marketing perspective, you've got to grab people in a way that they feel it, before you can grab them in a way they can think about it. And so um,
Right.
you have to get that system one, that instinctive, just gut reaction part of their brain before you can give them all the reasons why you're the best, right? Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I'd totally recommend, and just best advice to anybody starting out, is figure your money out. Figure out how much do you need to pay yourself, and to put a little bit aside for profit, right? And be very, very, very wary of getting into any sort of business debt. That was some mistakes that I made very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and it will slow you down it will stress you out, and just kind of try to stay away from it as much as possible, unless there's a really, really good reason and there's going to be a really, really good payoff for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, so those are my uh, two pieces of advice I could give to anybody starting out. We absolutely love like startups, entrepreneurs. So Epic Nine is kind of our main agency. We work with slightly larger businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but Climb Club was designed for those folks that you're looking to make $1 million in revenue, but you're not there, right? And
Right.
so that the Climb Club is for folks who are wanting to grow and wanting to get over that $1 million a year revenue mark. And it gives you all the tools and all the resources at a price that pretty much any business or startup can afford.
Right. I definitely feel you or understand you with getting the customer or person to feel what you're selling, right, or what you're trying to convey. Um, Again, with the masks that I sell, I usually don't have to say much, right? They're very attractive, very, unique and not very ubiquitous, right? They're not everywhere. So when people see them, it's always an instant feeling, right? If it's not the child, it's usually the parent or is the grandparent, right? Somebody's feeling something about it. And then, but the name of my game is just kind of taking that customer, getting them into a funnel for something else, right? And so that's kind of the name of the game. But I definitely understand, uh, you know, and believe in getting the person that you're trying to connect with to feel something rather than to think something. Um, and you touched on a little bit about Climb Club, right? So bringing local business owners together to break $1 million a year revenue, right? So talk about that. So where did you come up with that game plan? How do you plan on doing it, right? Well, have you done it? I'm sure you said you've done it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Epic Nine, we've broken that mark probably 4 years ago.
Congratulations.
But what we found with our clients is businesses that are under that mark, it most of the time it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to pay an agency like us, right?
Okay.
Because by the time if you're under that $1 million a year revenue mark and you are looking at somewhere between 2 to 5% of your revenue for marketing, um, you're thinking about maybe $1,000 $2,000 a month for marketing. The minute you go to an agency, half of that money's gone, right? It's going to the agency for their
All right.
services. And so while you're in that mode of getting to that $1 million mark, you need to make that $1,000 $2,000 or whatever you've got. If you're starting out with 100, you need to make that work as efficiently as possible. And the reality is, if you're trying to pull together a marketing budget and you have like 250 $500 a month, chances are you cannot find good services for that, right?
Yeah.
Like every you can get lucky, and there's going to be some freelancer out there that's going to cuss me because they're like, I charge $500 and I'm great. There are some gems out there. There's some absolute gems of creative people who aren't charging enough, in my opinion. Like uh, because their services are more valuable than that.
Mm,
Um, but uh, but you can find them every once in a while. But for the most part, most businesses are not lucky enough to get really good marketing for that price. And so, what Climb Club is intended to do is to give you the resources to do your marketing on your own until you can get to that point where it makes sense to either hire someone on staff. If you're at the point where if you can hire someone on staff to do your marketing, you're in a great position. Or pay an agency, pay someone to help you with your marketing. That's the idea. That's the goal. The $1 million mark is arbitrary. Some
mm,
people get there before $1 million. Some people get there after $1 million. It kind of depends on what your margin is and all of that. But the idea is let's figure out what that goal is, and here are the tools to get you there, so
okay.
that at that point you can stop worrying with your marketing, right? You can get back 10 hours a month to focus on your business so that
Ooh,
you're
that's
not worried
fire.
about your marketing. And then you can focus on doing the more important things and let someone else do your marketing.
Right. So stop working in the business and working on the business. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frank, you hear that? Talk to my co-host because yeah, that's us. We have a little help. We got our assistant, but we are getting more comfortable with offloading, the work, right? Because only we can do it the way we do it, right? So talk about that. Talk about some of the entrepreneurs you come in contact with saying they can't do it like me, you know.
Oh, you're talking to one. Yeah.
Right,
I think that's the struggle that every entrepreneur has to deal with at some point. Like you have most entrepreneurs are going to have a craft, right? They're going to whether you're a professional services. I mean, you can be a CPA, a lawyer, a plumber, a marketer. You have this craft that you've figured out and you're really good at. And at some point, you're going to have to trust someone else to do the thing. And most of the time, they're not going to be able to do it as good as you. And what I found, and when you get to that point where you want to hire someone or either as an employee or outsource something, I chose to go more of the employee route. I don't like outsourcing things because I feel like that relationship is very temporary in a lot of ways. But as an employer, I feel like it's a little bit more solid. And what I've tried to do with our team is find people that they don't have to necessarily do it as good as I can do it or as good as I want them to do it. But if they've got a willing spirit to learn, if they're good people, and they've got the right, um, I guess, just raw material, then I'm willing to invest in them and get them to the point where it's going to be as good or hopefully better than what I can do. Like right now, we've got folks on our team that I wouldn't try to compare my design skills to theirs. Like they're
right.
far beyond me. And
Okay,
so that's where I want to get it to.
okay. That sounds
But
like
it takes time. It takes
yeah,
time. It's frustrating. You're
yeah.
going to make some bad. I would say some of my worst decisions in businesses are just not taking long enough to hire the right people.
Okay,
I'm yeah, and not taking the time to really kind of fill people out and figure out if they are great, and then letting people go faster, right? So, uh, the wrong hires will cost you more
mm,
time. They'll cost you more emotional energy than you need to spend. And uh, yeah, so I would say that's also another big hurdle for
that's
entrepreneurs.
part of the game, though, right? It's
Yeah,
part of the game. Gary Vee says, "Hire fast, but fire faster." Right?
yeah,
If they're not the one, and they're not working out, get them out of there so you can find the right person and take the time to
yeah,
get the right person in there, right? And like I
yeah,
said, that's something that we have to work on because I think we're ready to and it's more. I think it's more. I'm trying to outsource my part of the game. Is I have a co-host, so we both have our duties, right? But I think Frank maybe. I'm speaking for you, Frank. My bad. Uh, it's more of letting go of some of the editing things, right, and the graphics, right? Because he likes to do it. He's really good at it. He's awesome at it. If you've seen our show, our website, our stuff looks amazing, right? And he's always on me about the quality of stuff that we're putting out, right? And I'm like, all right, good, I get it. But I'm a quantity type of guy. I'm like, I want to we have to get numbers out. We have to get lots and lots. Like you said, we need to be in front of our customers, but in a good way to where they can remember us, right, and want to come back to see what we have to offer. And so that's kind of our battle. But
no, that's a good combination though of if having a quantity and a quality person.
think so.
It's a good balance. I mean, you'll have all sorts of arguments, but at the end of the day,
We do.
you'll get some good stuff done.
You just
Yeah.
sit there. What is it? Hit the
Nail on the
yes.
head. Yeah, so and that's kind of how I brought my sister on, to help us out. We have a SEO guy or person to help us, with our YouTube growth and our social media growth, but we don't have a poster. I'm still posting, and like I said, he's still doing graphics. So it's kind of personal to us, I guess, because we care, right? We've been putting in a lot of sweat equity in this thing. We've been doing it this is our fifth season, right? This is going on our
Yeah.
third, maybe fourth year, right? So we're serious about it, we're honest about it, but we definitely want to make sure we're growing and keeping that integrity in our show and our content, right? So, um, eh, do you only work with local businesses, or do you work with uh national business brands as well?
Yeah, so we've got I would say the majority of our businesses, both with Epic Nine and with Climb Club, are local businesses. Um,
Okay.
but we do have some regional and national clients as well. And we've got to do some fun stuff on those levels. But Climb Club, if, when I say local business, I like to make a distinction between small businesses and local businesses.
Okay.
Local businesses are typically always small businesses, but small businesses aren't always local businesses. And so I like to really focus on businesses that have a local footprint. Whether you're in the community, you're selling to people in the community, you are sponsoring nonprofits in your community. You're doing the things locally. You don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar shop, but you are active locally in your community. And so that's kind of the focus of Climb Club. And it doesn't matter what community you're in. You could be, here in Tennessee, you can be over in Virginia, you can be in California. Um, but it's made for businesses who you're not just solely online, right? You're not just
Mhm.
a software startup that it's one person here and you're scattered out all across the country. It's for businesses that are really making a local impact.
Okay. Um, and then you mentioned already earlier about one of your strategies of getting clients, right? But what are some strategies going into the new year or in this new phase of digital marketing, right? Or the digital world that we're in? What are some strategies you share with some of your clients stuff?
Yeah. So for us, you're talking about for what we do as Epic Nine, or what we're trying to get our clients to do.
Let's say both. Let's do both.
Okay. It's easier to talk about our clients in a lot of ways because as a marketer, it's kind of the cobbler's kids don't have any shoes, right? Sometimes we're working so hard on our clients that it's hard to
All right.
focus on
Market.
our own
Right.
stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for our clients, we are um, social media is a big element of what we do. And we were talking before. I'm not involved in the day to day on like Instagram and things. LinkedIn is really my forte, and I know probably more of the details about it. But we've got a great team that works on social media.
Hmm.
But strategically, the landscape of social media is changing, not just because of TikTok, but really because of how all the algorithms are shifting towards that TikTok model.
Hmm.
And so we're in the process of really helping our clients navigate that terrain and focus on the interest graph rather than the social graph. So when social media first started, it was a social graph. It was you're seeing content because you're connected to your friends, and your friends are seeing your content because they're connected to you. But now it's really the interest graph. So when I open up my Facebook feed, I say Facebook is probably the worst. It's trying to get it, but my feed is so annoying right now. It just makes me want to turn it off. Um, but when I open up my feed, I very rarely see people I'm connected with. I'm seeing
Hmm.
things that Facebook thinks I'm interested in. And I don't know about you, but I've run into this habit where I see a lot of AI generated stuff, which I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to see. I could go without seeing another AI image or video
Absolutely.
for my whole life, I
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
But the problem is I'll see these like really fancy houses that are AI generated, and I'll be scrolling and I'll be like, it'll look like this really cool cabin, And I love cabins. Like if I could just go be a hermit somewhere in a cabin, I probably would. Um, but I'll stop and like, ooh, that's a really cool cabin. And then I'm like looking at it and like, oh wait, it's AI generated. So I look a little longer, and I'm like, yeah, that window pane doesn't look right, or that
Right.
plant is weird. And, and so then all of a sudden, Facebook thinks, oh,
He
Jeremy's
like
really interested in AI
that.
generated cabins. So here are 10 more AI
Yeah.
generated and so I start doing that with each one. I'm like, oh, is that AI generated or is that real?
Right.
And it's a you get into this, you get sucked into these things that are keeping you on the platform longer, but you're
Hmm.
not really interested in it. And so
Hmm.
that's where I think TikTok kind of came out of the gate with an algorithm that both kept you interested, kept you on the platform, and was serving you things that you genuinely thought were funny or
Right.
interesting or whatever. Um, and now all the other platforms are trying to, but they haven't really figured it out yet.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's kind of
So
like when. No,
go
go.
back. Yeah,
No, I was just gonna say
go back to
TikTok.
your question. That's
Uh,
one of the yeah.
sorry. I was just saying TikTok
Go
has that
go
not interested button. Are you interested or not interested button, right?
Mm.
So I really think that helped the algorithm a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's one way we're trying to get our clients to really think through their social media and what can we create on social media that actually gets people's interest rather than
Mm.
just gets reactions.
Right.
And some other things are, like I said, the branding and the creative strategy. Um, and so helping them just be just, I'd say being distinct is it's one of the hardest battles to say, to come up with ideas that are a little bit risky and get clients to buy into it. Um, but when you're able to do that and then take an idea and then implement it in different pieces, whether it's streaming video ads or display ads, all those pieces, it makes the whole thing better, right? And so
Mm.
there's there's no there's no worst way to spend your marketing budget than on boring ads. Like
Man.
I hate when a client comes to us and they don't want to do risky things and they but they have a budget and they spend it on ads and it's doing something, right? It's not just completely wasteful, but
Mm.
it's so inefficient because people are never going to remember
Right.
that display ad that they saw when they were scrolling on an app that just has your logo on it, right? They're not
Right.
going to remember that. Um, so yeah, so I'd say in general, the tactics and the technology has changed a lot, but at the end of the day, good marketing is good marketing, and it's never gonna. I don't think it's gonna ever change that much in terms of what really connects with people.
Okay. So yeah, I've seen those a lot too. Like just the logo and some words, and it's like you said, kind of antiquated, right? Just old fashioned, and it barely worked then, and it's definitely not going to work now, right? If you're not catching somebody's attention in the first 3.5 seconds, uh, you're getting swiped off the screen faster than you got there. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. The only brands that get to do that are the big ones, right? If you're Coca-Cola, you can
yeah,
do that
you
because
can still stroll it,
you've earned it, right?
right?
Yeah, but if you're kind of a no-name startup, like you gotta work at it. You got to give me something that's worth remembering.
And then, like you said,
That's why
like you said earlier, no, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead. I was gonna say the one story that I love that I think that exemplifies this on a national level is Liquid Death. Are y'all familiar with Liquid Death?
Yeah, the water. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So the idea is they took a very saturated market, no pun intended, right? Like you go to the gas station and you can find 10 or 20 different brands of bottled water.
Mhm.
But I guarantee you go to pretty much any gas station in America, and all of those bottles look the same, right?
right.
It's gonna look blue, it's gonna be clear, it's probably gonna have a mountain or an animal
Or
or
water
a
drop.
waterfall on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, something. And but then here comes Liquid Death, and they're like, nah, we're gonna put it in a can, and we're gonna put a skull on it, and we're gonna just make our whole brand revolve around killing your thirst, right? And and the water is not great, right? It tastes like water from a can.
But
It's not,
it's
yeah, it's
catchy.
yes, but people remember it, like they remember it. It's the same thing that do y'all have Bucky's up there?
Mm-mm.
The
The
gas
No.
Beaver,
station?
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've seen them before though.
Okay. So it kind of it's kind of taken over the Southeast for the
Okay.
most part. It feels like it has at least, but if you are anywhere that's probably within 150 miles of a Bucky's, you know of Bucky's. And they have a horrible social media account. Like their social media is garbage, right?
Right.
I went on there one day and they had no post. It was just they were hiring people. That's all their posts were on their Facebook was come work at Bucky's, come work at Bucky's. Nothing funny, nothing, but they've mastered the art of billboards. And so
Mm-hmm.
you can't go down I-40 without seeing funny billboards that you know are Bucky's. And so,
All right.
but it's
Uh,
about it's about being distinct. They found a way to be distinct.
I think you've touched on it a few different times throughout the interview. Kind of like I was going to ask you what is marketing, but you said it several different times in a few different ways, right? Being repetitive, right, and being distinct and standing out and making somebody feel something. Kind of like So I was going to mention I see an ad for vitamins on my Instagram, but it's like I'm into vitamins, but it's kind of like they're making you like, no, you really need these vitamins. Like, and I was like, yeah, I want some vitamins, but no, you really need these vitamins. And I'm like, ah. So, and I've seen them so much, and then the messaging is kind of like, these are the best vitamins, right? Because you look at vitamins, we got the best vitamins, right? It's like I do need some vitamins, and so I went to the website, and I haven't bought anything, but I'm still just getting bombarded with a
Yeah.
decent message, right? Something kind of catchy. And it's not your typical brand ads. Go to Walgreens and get your vitamins, right? It's something kind of catchy and stands out for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so is that what
Here's
marketing is? Go ahead.
it's so that's part of it, right? So part of it is um just beating. So if you have a business, you're going to have competitors, and you're
Mm-hmm.
all fighting for that little piece of real estate in someone's brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can either have great creative uh, advertising, and you can earn that spot pretty quickly, or you can have kind of mediocre advertising, and you can just like beat it into someone's head, right?
Right.
And if you have the kind of the secret sauce is if you have great creative and you have a good budget, you can you've won, right? You
Right.
don't even necessarily have to have a good product.
Mm-hmm.
You've won. Um,
Right.
Now, if you have a bad product, long term, you're not gonna win in the long term, but you've definitely won that battle in the short term. That's why you see a lot of great businesses, especially on the local level. You see
Mm-hmm.
people who put their heart and soul into starting a business, but then they just kind of suck at their marketing, and they don't make it. And it's not because their
Mm-hmm.
business was bad or they had a bad product or a bad service. It was just that they just couldn't get this marketing thing right. And that's what like that kills me every time I see that, because like as an entrepreneur, and I know as an entrepreneur, man, like you are putting your livelihood on the line to get this thing started. And
Absolutely.
especially if you have employees, like you're busting your ass to make sure that they get fed, right? That they've got a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so anytime you see someone like just not make it because they didn't have a good tagline, it sucks and I hate it, but that's the reality of the world that we live in. And so that's really, if you had to ask me what my passion is behind what I do, is that it's I want to make sure that great businesses and great people don't have to rely on luck, that they can have great marketing and tell the story the way it needs to be told. And
Right.
so go back to your question. Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
It's all
Go
right.
back to your question. Yeah, it's advertising is really getting in front of people and winning that spot in their brain. There's this thing called the bias of familiarity, and so even though and you can know that your brain is doing this, but it still doesn't change anything. Um, just because you see something more, it makes you it makes you trust it more,
Hmm.
right? The fact that you see that vitamin brand over and over and over and over again, I guarantee you, if you went to Walgreens and you saw that brand on the shelf and you were like,
Oh
all
yeah.
right, today's the day I'm going to get some vitamins, you would trust unless it was just like, quadruple the price, you would
Right.
say, I'm going to get that brand
Mm.
because deep down instinctively you
It got
trust them. Whether it makes sense, it doesn't even have to be rational, but the way your brain works, you trust that brand because you've seen it more. They've done studies about this. It's fascinating.
okay. I can like so when you were talking about, I just seen a bunch of sad businesses working and toiling around just in a gray setting, just going about their day, doing their business, doing their work, but they're sad because they're working, right? But they're just working. And I seen you on the top of the mountain screaming, "I can help you! I can help you!" I bet you get that all the time, right? Like, I can help you. Just let me help you.
Yes, yes, yeah. And so it's a uphill battle sometimes, no pun intended.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked the questions, man. You gave some good advice. You gave some good tips. Some things that I'm gonna definitely be using, right? And then confirmation, like I said, what I was already been thinking. Got any more questions, Gab, before I send them off with the final question?
Well, I was gonna piggyback off what he said because I live in the natural hair community, and the young ladies, if somebody says we need rice water, if you go make it and put a label on it, we're gonna buy
So,
it. So it's
so
like all you have to do is just hear somebody say something. Oh, they need more oil. Oh, we're gonna make some oil because they're gonna buy it. And it's kind of
right.
like that oil is not gonna help your hair, but the natural hair community said they need more oil. So everybody just
Yeah.
go around and get some oil, slap a label on it, and it's sold. So that I was thinking of marketing in that sense because I hear people talk about it all the time in the natural hair community. They always say
Hmm.
something. Mm, they really don't need that because they don't, but they hear us talk about what we want to put in our hair: oil, a good conditioner, a good shampoo. Oh,
Right.
just tell the natural hair community they'll buy it, and that's exactly what they do. I thought
Okay.
about it when he was talking.
Yeah, it's fascinating how many things that we buy that we have no real
Use.
rational reason
Mm-hmm,
to buy it,
mm-hmm.
but we feel like we do, right? We feel like we. The reality is that we decide to buy something most of the time. We decide to buy it on a gut emotional level, and then we build up reasons why we think we should buy it. Um, if you've got any sort of if you're an Apple person or if you're an Android person, you've
Hmm.
done that, right? Are y'all
Right.
are y'all Apple or Android?
Apple.
Android.
I love it. I love it. And it's not like it's both phone. I've been both. I've had an Apple and an Android. They're both really good phones. I mean, they're like real like the technology is incredible. Um, and so it's not like there's a better one, but you've made an emotional decision about Apple and you've made an emotional decision about Android, and we create all these reasons
Right.
why it's
What is
better,
better than
right?
the other? Yep.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we call ourselves sophisticated buyers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No. All right. So I think the last question we got for you is, what is something you're trying to figure out moving forward, right? You told us you're figuring shit out moving. You gave us some good tools. So what is something you're trying to figure out moving forward?
So I would say, so we launched Climb Club a couple of months ago,
Mhm.
and it's really uh, it's resources, but it's also a community. And so we're trying to form a community of local businesses, owners that can give each other advice, ask each other questions, do all that. It's something that I've never tried to market before,
Mhm.
um, and so it's difficult. Like, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get this thing that I know can help a lot of people? How do I get it out? on a national level? How do I get it out in front of a lot of people? So that's what part of the, trying to get on podcasts and everything, that's part of that. Um, and that's kind of, it's a little bit of an experiment, right? It's trying to figure out how to connect with folks, and hopefully uh, pique their interest enough that they'll go on to theclimbclub.com. Shameless pitch there, and check it out. Uh, so that for me, the thing I'm trying to figure out is how do I market this intangible service that's a resource plus a community, and get people to, it's $58 a month. How do I get them to say, all right, this is enough for me to invest in my marketing and in my business to help me grow? Um, it's been a learning experience, so far, and one that I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn a lot more about as we go farther with it.
Good. The entrepreneur has to take risks. Uh, if you're not taking risks, you don't really want it, right? I tell my story all the time. I spent $600 and I had no idea what I was doing. It was come back, and I went outside and sold some masks, and I made $1,200 in like a day. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. And like I've never been scared of risk. I can say I have been scared, but I am more inclined to take risks now. Like I'm just like I'm gonna go try something because I have no idea what's on the other side unless I go and try. I know what happens if I don't try. Right? Nothing. Right? But if you don't go out there and like you said, get on podcasts, try to market this thing and let people know it's out there, you'll never know what's on the other side. And you're a professional, you've been doing this for 11 years, so you clearly have something to offer. You clearly have some advice to share, right? And you clearly have a product that's probably going to be beneficial to whoever takes your product, right? So, yeah, man, I'm wishing you good luck. I'm sure you're going to do amazing. Um, and here's your time to plug, right? What's your website and your social
So,
media to
uh,
follow you?
yeah, so I'm on. If you look for Jeremy LaDuke on LinkedIn, that's where you can kind of see probably more kind of a continual updates for me, than other platforms. Also on TikTok, the Climb Club. If you go to theclimbclub.com, you can find all the TikTok and the LinkedIn links there. Um, and I just say, hey, if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting out, or even if you've been going for a couple of years and you're just trying to figure out how to get your marketing straight. If you've got about 4 hours or more a month that you can dedicate to your marketing, Climb Club can help you get there. It can help you grow. And so right now it's a small community, with a lot of resources. And so we offer a free month trial. You can go on, just check it out. If you don't like it after a month, you can ditch it. Um, but I think you're going to find it and love it and really get a lot of value out of it. The folks that have been a part of it so far have, they've been implementing the things that, we're recommending, and it's working. They're getting customers, they're getting clients, and so that's exciting to see. Um, so there's that. And then, but if you're not ready to take that step, I would say check out, my book. I published a book last year called Climb, and it's about a local business that has to figure out their marketing. And it's a little bit of a story, but it's a lot of nuts and bolts how tos as well. And you can go to the climb.guide, and find links to it on Amazon or, bookshop.org, or Kindle, wherever you want to get your book.
Okay, cool. And your websites look great. Frank and I make websites, right? So we always kind of look
Oh
up
yeah,
people's websites and kind of, give our 2 cents.
you judge them.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit. We judge, but we don't. What is it? We judge and we don't.
We listen, but we don't
Yeah,
judge.
we
Yeah,
listen,
yeah,
we
yeah,
don't
yeah.
judge, but we judge a little bit.
Yeah.
No, the websites look great. You can tell what you guys know what you're doing, and they're very vibrant and very attractive. So I wanted to give you a kudos there, right? So
Appreciate that.
yeah, we appreciate you coming on, Mr. LaDuke. This was a great episode. Gave a lot of information. Like I said, I got something out of it. And then me and Frank are gonna have a conversation. Hey, Frank, I'm gonna talk to you when you watch this because he's gonna edit this thing. He's gonna be like, man, why are you talking to me? Like, and so I
Hey
appreciate you
Frank.
coming. Hey, Frank, yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and we will talk to you soon. Like I said, and this will come out maybe probably top of February. We'll custom clip out.
Fantastic.
We'll tag you guys in it and let you know how it goes.
Awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Nice talking to you. Good
All
night.
right. Are y'all hanging on, or are we